my name is Rebecca Bowes. I'm one of the tutor assessors here at Orange Bean Training, and I've been asked to talk to you today about my role when I worked in school. So I used to work as an early years lead in a primary school. I've worked as an early years lead in an infant school and a primary school, so I've had experience of a smaller school and a bigger school. My journey to becoming an early years lead was I started off as a year 2 class teacher, spent 5 years teaching year 2, got to the point where I thought I want to do something different, moved to a different school to teach in reception, F2, and after a year or so, the early years lead left and I was asked to take on that role, which I did. So what sort of responsibilities did I have as early years lead? Well, the main role is to oversee and lead both the nursery and reception provision. So there are certain aspects to that job which I'm going to go through now. So the main point is ensuring that the quality and standards of teaching and learning across reception and nursery are maintained, that they are high level. So how is that done? Well, observations. So as the early years lead, I would go in and look at teaching within the nursery classroom and also within the reception classroom. I might have a particular focus. So in one of my settings, it was looking at the provision of maths across the early years and just making sure that the consistency was there, that what was happening in nursery fed through to what was happening in reception. Another aspect of the role is making sure that the planning that is done within the setting is of a high standard, it's relevant to the children in the setting, and it follows any new curriculum guidance. So this, for my setting, we used to work very closely together and we would ensure that there was progression from nursery through to reception. I would attend regular network meetings with local early years leads from other schools where we would look at different focus. So for example, one session was on supporting children with speech and language difficulties, and it was a good opportunity to network with other people and find out if they were experiencing the same things that we were. So for example, after COVID, a massive thing would have been the speech and language dip, really, that children were coming in with lower skills than they had been previously. And so those network meetings were a really valuable time to be able to talk about what different schools were doing to support their children. It's important as the lead to keep up with any local or national new initiatives. So for example, when the new framework came out, making sure that I was up to date with that information, but then also making sure that my team of staff were as well. And I think that's a big part of a role as early years lead, it's managing people, and that can be really easy and amazing, and it can also be really challenging. And I think that's a big part of it, is learning how to get the information you need to get across to your staff, make sure that people are on board with your vision for the unit, if it's a unit, or for the team, and just making sure that everybody within your team is pulling in the right direction or the same direction. As part of my role as early years lead, I also had to develop an action plan, so thinking about where we wanted our early years to go, what my plan was for how to get there, and breaking that down into manageable steps. I then had to make sure that I was accountable for that, so I had to regularly report back to my head teacher and the governors on what we had done towards meeting those objectives. Another part of my role was as a designated safeguarding lead. So in the school I worked in, that did take a lot of my time. So we used a program called CPOMS to record all of our safeguarding concerns. As a designated safeguarding lead, I would get notifications of any concerns that there were across the whole school. I would have to attend meetings, review meetings. If calls came through from MASH, the local safeguarding team, I would have to take those and act accordingly. So that does take a big chunk of your time, and I think if it's something you're looking to do in, it is just being aware that that is also a part of your role, and it might not just be specific to early years, it could be across the whole school as well. I think the main role of being an early years lead is making sure that you are a good role model and that you share that good practice. So if you're asking your staff to do something or to implement things, make sure you're doing it. So for example, in our setting, one thing that we were really hot on was making sure that we were getting into the areas in the classroom, in the provision, and working with and playing with the children. So as a good leader, you need to be seen to be doing that. It's no good if you're asking your staff to do it, but actually you don't do it yourself. Assessment and moderation is a big part of the role as early years lead. So you're looking at the achievements of all the children, not just in your class. If you're in a reception class, you're looking at all the classes within the early years team. So you're making sure that children are working towards their end goals. In reception in particular, you're working towards the early learning goals, and you're constantly aware of every child's progress and their next steps. Part of this role is also thinking about moderation. So moderation could be done in-house, so making sure that you organise moderation with your team, looking at children across reception and nursery, but then also maybe if you're in a trust, looking to meet with other schools in the trust and compare children. We used to also attend network meetings within the cluster, so there was 4 or 5 schools that got together and just looked at whether we felt a certain child's work would meet the early learning goal or not, and that was really useful for making sure that we were on track. It was also really useful then for if you had moderation by county, so if they came in and we were able to say, yes, we moderate in-house, yes, we've met with the network of schools to moderate, they then felt that that was a much more solid judgment than just you saying, yes, this is where that child's at. So there will also be moderation training that you can attend, so having a look at your, maybe within your trust or within your county to see if they provide training. Tracking is massively important, so making sure that when you have your assessment points throughout the year, making sure that those children are making progress, and if they aren't, can you say why and what are you doing about it? If you've got children who you've identified as below where they need to be, part of your role will be thinking about how do I get them back on track, how do I get them as close as I possibly can to where they need to be. So a big part of the role is data. As an early years lead, you are accountable for that data. You have to discuss it with the head teacher. I also had to meet with governors and talk it through with the governors, knowing percentages of children that were on track, not on track, percentages of boys and girls, free school meals, non-free school meals, just comparing it and knowing your data inside and out, so that then informs your action plan. So if you know, for example, that your boys aren't very good at writing, a very stereotypical example I know, but still tends to be an issue, you can then say, right, we know that boys writing is an issue, this is the data that shows it, now what am I going to do about it? Well, this is what we're going to do about it. And it just shows that you've considered your cohort. It is a challenging role, but it is also a very rewarding role, and it also gives you that opportunity to put your vision into practice. If you can see where you need your unit or your school early years team to be, it's a really enjoyable and fulfilling role. Thank you for listening. I hope it's been useful, and I'll see you soon. Bye.